Man, that shot at Human Stadium was a bust, huh?
There's no clean shot, nowhere to park. Damn it, Tulane!
What were they thinking?
But we're back at the Dome.
For the Sports Report.
Next. Free agency already opened on Tuesday. It's another episode of the Sports Report. I'm Paul. He's Chris. Back home at the Dome.
Back in the shadow of the Dome.
I love it.
Nice and cool right here.
I love it. And spring is in the air. When we talk free agency, where everybody is in uproar about what the Saints are doing. We are in New Orleans. We're from New Orleans, so obviously the Saints are our team. A lot of things going on. The Jimmy Graham
scenario.
Still going on.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen with that.
No, we really don't. And selfishly, as a Saints fan, you want to keep Jimmy Graham, even though around the league some people call him overrated. I myself kind of do, in a way. But I mean, when you get rid of names that have been on the team forever, like Vilma, Harper, Moore, Sproul's only been here for a couple of years. He has a huge impact.
But here's the thing with that, though. You have to create salary cap space, and age plays a factor.
It absolutely
with
does.
A lot of those.
Age and injury. And Vilma hadn't played a complete season since, what, 09?
Something like that.
Something
Maybe the
like
Super
that.
Bowl year.
Yeah, I think so. It had been a while.
Some notable free agents other than the ones that we just mentioned that were already released. Luke McCown becomes a free agent. Robert Meacham becomes a free agent. Charles Brown, Zach Strief, Brian De La Puente. Those are three guys right there on the offensive line that you need to do something with to protect your quarterback, a franchise quarterback, I might add.
Yeah, we do. We need to keep, in my opinion, at least two of those three guys. Because, I mean, you saw what happened when we lost German Bushrod to the Bears, how that whole...
Who would you keep out of those three?
Out of those three, I'd keep De La Puente and... Who was it? Strief and...
Charles Brown.
I mean, I would say Charles Brown, but then again, I'd hate to see Zach Strief go. He's kind of been like a cult hit in the city.
Yeah, he's got his own section up there underneath the press box. It's that Zach Strief
Number
fan
76
club.
as reported as eligible.
67?
67. I was close. Sorry, Zach, if you watch this.
Defensive ends Kenyon Coleman and Kayunta Dawson, Paris Harrelson, Will Herring, Ramon Humber. All become free agents.
All guys who have had decent playing time with us.
We mentioned Lance Moore, Will Smith, Darren Sproles, Jonathan Vilma. Jabari Greer was another guy that was released.
I really didn't want to see Jabari get cut that way. Especially was that him that looked like he broke his leg?
It was a very gruesome injury.
I was really hoping they'd give him at least one more year after that.
Happened against San Francisco?
Yeah, I think so. But then again, you also think about it too. He's getting up there in age. He's only played one full 16-game season in 6 years.
And notice something: the Saints were 8-2 after the San Francisco game, and then when Jabari Greer goes down with the injury, it took a nosedive.
Yeah, we did. I mean, I really hate to see Jabari go though.
Now we already mentioned Roman Harper. Malcolm Jenkins becomes a free agent if they don't re-sign him. If you're the Saints, do you re-sign Malcolm Jenkins?
I think yes, just because you need some continuity. You can't wholesale change your defense and then have Rob Ryan have to work with that. He needs guys he knows, and he needs talented guys that he knows. I didn't think Jenkins was that big of a problem. I think we got rid of Harper. That might solve some things.
That might. And then you also got Kenny Vaccaro back there. He's not a free agent. He's just a rookie. He's going to be in the second year with the Saints, and he'll be with us for a while. I think he'll be a fantastic football player. I mean, he was really good this season for the Saints.
If he can limit his concussions.
Well, he went down with the injury against Carolina at the end of the year. But all in all, I mean, we got some, big names for the Saints are no longer with us. And then kicker Shane Graham was only signed for the remainder of the season last year. He becomes a free agent. I think you have to re-sign Shane Graham.
I mean, kickers are a dime a dozen in the league, man. I mean, if it wasn't Garrett Hartley, it's going to be Shane Graham, and who knows who else it could be if we don't keep Shane. So, what
positions do you fill if you're the Saints during free agency, and what can you wait for in the draft?
During free agency, I think if you can get a solid group of, if you can keep at least minimum one of those three offensive linemen in free agency, and you can find some quality guys that have experience and that are good at what they do to protect Drew, I think you can do that. And then for the draft, I'd say defense is the main problem with the Saints. We know that for a fact. We got the offense.
And the funny thing about that was they were a top 5 defense this year.
Yeah. I mean, the offense, I believe, can run with anybody. You need, if anything, you may want to pick up a running back in free agency because you're not going to spend a rookie salary on a running back.
Couple of running backs that may become available. We talked about off camera. Denver running back Noshawn Marino's a free agent, and LeGarrette Blount from New England becomes a free agent. Or do you look somewhere else?
Might look somewhere else, but I mean, I wouldn't mind working out near Sean Marino. He's a Southern guy. He's got a good work ethic. He's not that bad of a player.
He went to Georgia, but he's actually from New Jersey.
Oh, okay. He went to the SEC.
He's a Southern guy.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he's got that SEC power.
Yeah.
Pair him up with Kyrie Robinson and Mark Ingram. I think you might have an even stronger running game. It looks like, by the looks of it, getting rid of the wide receiver Lance Moore like we did, and letting Darren Sproles go, and then there's been talk about shopping Pierre Thomas. It looks like the Saints are trying to focus more on the power running game for this season.
It seems like, because everybody knows if you got Drew Brees in the backfield, they're going to sling the ball around. Everybody knows that. We're still hanging on to Colston. If we can keep Jimmy Graham, then everybody knows those are going to be the two go-to guys. But a passing game can only do so much. You need a run game to supplant that. When we won the Super Bowl in 2009, we had a top 10 running game that year. I mean, it was one of the big things that helped us. So I mean, if we can get the run game going, it could be more dangerous than we already are.
Wide receiver's been talked about as a position that you need to get a big-time wide receiver. Do you fill that in the draft, or do you go free agency with that? I mean, you let one of your consistencies go in Lance Moore. Yeah. Robert Meacham becomes a free agent. Do you re-sign him? What do you do at the wide receiver position?
At the wide receiver position is a little tricky because you can get an older, more experienced guy who knows the ins and outs of routes and defense and that kind of thing. But then again, you look at this draft class, man. 2 receivers that pop immediately to me are Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. Not just because they're LSU guys, but they were draft ready by the 5th game of this football season.
Right.
I mean, those guys are extraordinary.
Do you use your first round pick on one of those guys, or where do you go?
I mean, if
too soon to tell.
It's very too soon to tell.
I mean, because free agency just opened up. We want to see what the Saints do.
I mean, theoretically, both of them, in my opinion, are first-round picks. I mean, they're both extremely talented. Beckham is speedy. He's got great hands, and Jarvis Landry's got giant man hands, and he runs route. He's that dynamic route runner like Lance Moore that you could go to. Who's made incredible catches his entire college career that you could really use.
Do you realize how dangerous the Saints could be in a power running game if you get the right pieces on the offensive line?
Absolutely.
And then you add another weapon, a big play weapon with hands and speed.
Absolutely.
Like an Odell Beckham Jr. or a Jarvis Landry. My opinion, I'd go with Jarvis Landry, and here's why. There's a discipline issue with Odell Beckham.
Well, especially if he's coming back to his hometown, too. He's from New Orleans. He went to Newman. I mean, I think Peyton would be able to whip him into shape. Like when he cleared out the locker room when he first came with all the nonsense, I think Beckham would respect that. But as far as just clutch catching ability, I'd go Landry.
Jarvis Landry.
Absolutely.
Was it Jarvis Landry that made that incredible catch on the play that Mettenberger had the injury?
It was. Took it right out of the Arkansas defender's hands.
That.
I mean, you could list those off, though. He had that one that was sadly Mettenberger's last throw as a Tiger. You had the catch against UAB where, I mean, he laid out completely over the defender and caught it.
That was an incredible play.
The catch in triple coverage against Georgia, when he did the exact same thing and came down in between 3 Georgia defenders. I mean, you name it, Landry made the catch.
That is Mr. Clutch with his hands, and he's got the speed to boot.
You remember the one-handed catch against Arkansas year before last?
Wow.
It was
unbelievable.
Back to the plate.
Yeah.
Yep.
Eric Decker and Julian Edelman are big-name wide receivers that become free agents. Do the Saints take a chance at one of those guys, or are their salaries going to be too much for the Saints to handle?
I think with what the Saints have right now, I think their salaries are going to be a little too hot to handle. Because, I mean, we still don't know what's going on with Jimmy Graham yet, and that's a giant wad of money going to him right there if he gets it.
Right, and as we don't, as of production time, we don't know what's going on with Jimmy Graham. Something may happen, but something may not.
I hope something does. I'd hate to see him go.
Defensive backs: Jarvis Bird from Buffalo and Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie.
That's a name I honestly wouldn't mind seeing in the black and gold. He's been a consistent defensive back in the league, and consistency is what you need now.
And then if we're talking tight ends here, I know the Saints are trying to work something out with Jimmy Graham. But is Jermichael Finley one of those options that might sneak in? The Saints have been known for, with Mickey Loomis and Sean Payton working together at that tag teaming free agency, they've been known to bring in guys that you would never think would be brought into the black and gold, and then they turn out to be stars in this system.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Jermichael Finley, Green Bay, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think he'd be a good fit. I mean, he's more of a, he's athletic. Don't get me wrong. He's more of like a solid type of tight end, like a bigger type of guy. I wouldn't mind seeing.
I think that would be a very viable option for the Saints, because I don't see Jimmy Graham, and this is no offense to his ability, because everybody knows about his ability, but he lacks in a couple of places: pass protection and run blocking.
Yeah, Finley's more that tight end that if you need him to catch the ball, he's going to make the catch. He's going to catch the ball. He's going to do that for you. But he can also block.
He's got a body.
Oh, absolutely.
He's a body.
He's a big body.
Yeah, and that's something that the Saints had trouble with. That's one of the reasons why the Saints' running game was lacking, is because of the lack of run blocking. Look, people want to bash Mark Ingram. People want to. We're talking free agency. People are like, "Why didn't you let Mark Ingram go?" Well, I'm going to throw that down, and I'm going to tell you something. Mark Ingram.
There go the notes, folks.
Is one of those backs that since his rookie year, let's keep this in mind, since his rookie year has not played a full season because of injury. Okay? When you're injured, and the Saints want to do everything they can to keep Mark Ingram here. I feel that in my heart. I mean, I feel that. But when you're injured and not playing a full season, it's going to hurt you on consistency.
Right.
We saw what he can do against Dallas.
Oh, this is the best
He
game of
went
his career.
off against Dallas. You like Mark Ingram?
I love Mark Ingram.
I like Mark Ingram. Well, if the Saints are shopping Pierre Thomas like they say they are, or the reports say they are, Mark Ingram is your only viable option. He's probably going to end up being your starting running back next season. Live with it. For those that don't like him, that's on you. But who are you to make the decision of who the Saints can get rid of and who the Saints don't get rid of? It's not up to you. As a fan, my faith is in Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis. This is one of the winningest coach-general manager combinations in the history of this franchise.
It's also the longest lasting head coach GM combination in the league.
And when you have that sort of consistency, they know what they're doing, despite Bountygate. They know what they're doing. And this is why the Saints have seen so much success since 2006.
Absolutely.
If they put their trust in Mark Ingram, then they know something that you don't. And that's something that you may have to live with. My opinion is going to differ from yours. But let me tell you something. As I hear a helicopter in the background, it is what it is. And you got to deal with it. If you don't like Mark Ingram and if the Saints are making bad decisions in your opinion, then don't show up here on Sundays. And that's all I got to say about that issue. I think we're being cut off by a helicopter. I think it's time to end this one. What are final thoughts?
I admire your candor.
Thank you. From the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in the heart of New Orleans. This has been the Sports Report.